Judy York, Kate Silverstrom,
Okay.
Hi.
Karen DeMay,
Brenda.
Terry Finelli, and
Dennis Brewer.
there we go. So David and Judy live over on Rozier Road.
Rough neighborhood.
It is.
It is.
They all work over there.
They got me for a neighbor, so 50 years in Canandaigua.
Yeah,
Yeah, 43 or something. 43,
close,
yeah.
close.
Their son Devin is the is a social studies teacher and lacrosse coach.
When I moved
Parson
in, my
lacrosse.
taxes were $300. That's how long
Oh, you
ago it
did,
was.
Yeah.
And Rozier Road didn't go all the way through, right?
Oh, no.
Yes.
Yeah,
that-
I should know you, right?
Yeah.
Spent so many years with
Yeah,
Devin.
yeah.
So, you know, interested in local history with good reason. Karen is on town board. Terry's here just to watch and observe town board. Kate is staff here at the town hall, and she is going to be the liaison, and every one of our committees has a liaison member. So that
That bridge.
Yep.
Help.
when you guys have questions about where stuff is or how to do stuff, or even to post a meeting,
Mhm.
Kate handles that, because believe it or not, unfortunately, New York State has such a thumb on all of the towns that there are many little details that, and I will call them onerous details, right, Terry?
Yeah.
Just complete BS that these guys have to, the hoops they have to jump through. So just to have a meeting and have it be on record, we Zoom people in, so that could be an option for you too.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have one person, Mary. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Mary Schneider and I live in Canandaigua. My husband and I have lived here for about the past 11 years. But we live in a great old 1857 farmhouse. And I just have a personal interest in history. I love old cemeteries and just have a general interest in what you guys are doing, and thought I'd pop in and see if it was something to which I could perhaps devote some of my time and interest. So thank you.
Welcome
Awesome.
and thank you. And we need more people like you.
Well, thanks. I'll try and round up some troops.
Well, let me also offer, extend an invitation on behalf of Sarah Linda Hooker and the history team. If at any time you want to get involved in other historic Canandaigua projects, they are the folks that do that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm just kind of a functionary. I do a little writing, I do some research, I help people out, but they're really the frontline troops in preserving Canandaigua's history.
Absolutely.
So-
Wonderful.
I anticipate we'll grow a league of volunteers as well with the cemetery
Yes.
committee for anyone who might be interested in helping with cleanup and different projects as we go along. We'll definitely need many hands, so I think that'll be a great opportunity as well.
So let me quickly enumerate the cemeteries that you all are concerned with. And then Kate will read the resolution. Am I in order, Kate?
No.
Okay, so
There's an agenda right there.
we don't even have a flag for.
We
Like
do
you're
have
here.
a flag for the flag tree.
Okay,
We
so-
jumped over that, but that's okay. That's
All right,
very
let's do
formal.
our pledge first.
Yes.
Now we got everybody together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just a quick note with Zoom, anyone, please be aware, we do record our Zoom meetings, so any committee meetings would be open and available to the public to attend, and they are recorded and then transferred to the Town of Canandaigua's YouTube page. So if you miss a meeting or you'd like to revisit a conversation, you can always visit the Town of Canandaigua's YouTube page. And just a small note, because we are on Zoom, anyone who is here in this room, when we do things like click pens or jiggle keys, the microphones pick them up. So just be cautious of that, as well as any whispering. Typically, even a whisper is picked up. They're really, really good microphones.
When I say things like BS.
So write your note on a little page and, or be aware just that they may be picked up by the microphone.
And that's one of those details I was talking about where the state's onerous, all right, we have to, everything is a matter of public record. So, and Kate handles all of that because Leaf would be completely lost.
We're a team.
All right, so, Kate, would you read the local law?
I'd love to, yeah, absolutely. So chapter 45, cemeteries and monuments. The article 1 is the cemetery committee. So by resolution 22-153 on May 26, 2022, the Canandaigua Town Board established a committee to be named the Canandaigua Cemetery Committee to serve the town. The intent and purpose of the committee is hereby established. The purpose of which is to create in an effort to govern, preserve, ensure maintenance, interpret, and educate about historic cemeteries, both active and inactive in the town. The committee was created to govern the activities and functions of all aspects of operation and maintenance of the cemeteries as is required by New York State town law. Also to interpret and honor the history of the town of Canandaigua with a goal of preserving our burial grounds, to research and document the cemeteries in the town of Canandaigua, and to increase public awareness of the value of historic and cultural preservation by developing and participating in education programs as approved by the town board. The powers and duties granted to this committee include the general function of overseeing operation, preservation, and maintenance of the cemeteries within the parameters of the budgetary appropriations provided by the town board. The cemetery committee additionally shall review operations and make recommendations on any matter relating to the cemeteries. Of course, reserving the town board all decisions relating to the expenditure of monies outside of the annually established budget. It shall be the duty of the committee to advise, assist, and support the historian, the town board, the planning board, zoning board, and any other team or committee in matters pertaining to the cemeteries. Identify and assist in securing grants that contribute to the preservation and use of the burial grounds in the town of Canandaigua. And lastly, to contribute knowledge for educational materials as approved by the board that promise an understanding and appreciation of preserving historic cemeteries, including but not limited to walking tours, brochures, lectures, exhibits, and other appropriate methods of knowledge. The appointment and terms of office, the committee members are appointed by the town board. It shall consist of 5 members, at least 3 of whom reside in the town and have an interest and knowledge of local history and historic preservation, and no more than 2 of whom have an affiliation and or special interest in the Canandaigua community and have a specialized education or knowledge of cemetery management, preservation, and grant opportunities. The terms of office are for 5 years and are fixed that one shall expire each year. The town historian and or former town historian may serve as a voting member or ex officio non-voting member of the committee. Would you like me to continue? The rest of the chapter handles costs of lots and interments and rules and regulations for our cemeteries, including the hours of operation, what type of markers can be used. This is something we saw that was highly needed as it was lacking in our town code. And there is also one more section that we hope to add as the cemetery committee forms itself, which would be regulations to allow use at cemeteries. If someone wanted to hold a special event or do some type of maybe a Halloween tour, something like that, we would like to look at putting something together as far as what that application process or request would look like to use that time.
Doug,
Come on in.
Yes.
Doug, come on in.
Come on in,
Sorry,
Doug.
Gripsy,
No, not at all.
would you pass this down to
Not
Doug?
at all. Not at all.
By the way, I'm Leaf, obviously. So we just read the resolution establishing the committee.
Okay.
We'll get your copy. And for everybody's education, Doug Stone, Director of Woodlawn Cemetery in the city of Canandaigua. Kate, would you pull up the
Absolutely.
So the town of Canandaigua
Can't really see it.
is home to 9 cemeteries that we know of. I think it's almost a certainty that there are probably some family plots that are associated with older homes that have been lost to time. My longtime, as a local kind of history guy, I wouldn't put myself any higher than history guy. Tells me that there are a number of these little plots that have been lost in all of our communities. My home had a couple of burials that we never knew where they were. They were listed in the deed, the home I grew up in. So of those 9, however, that we know of, 7 are your purview or will be the purview of the committee. They are Hun over on the corner of County Road 32 and Woolhouse Road. I think everybody is familiar with Hun. We all drive by it with some degree of frequency. Lucas, which is on Route 21, just south of Cheshire. It's on the east side of State Route 21. Be very careful if you visit that. It's a very busy stretch of highway, and I highly suggest you park on the west side of the road or you'll get run over. Remington Route, which is also sometimes referred to as the Knott Road Cemetery, which is hidden, and it is between Middle Cheshire and Route 21 on the Knott Road. It is tucked back in. It is accessed via a right-of-way on the Pettinger property. You may be familiar with Pettinger fabrication down in the city. So they're very kind and let us use that for maintenance purposes only. The general public is not able to access that cemetery. Barely visible from Knott Road. You all will be able to visit it because the deed, make sure I'm saying that right if I say something wrong. I just read it, and it allows the officialdom and anybody we determine to visit for the purposes of maintenance and upkeep and research. Sand Hill, you're probably all familiar with over on the north side of town, just north of the school. On Emerson Road, one of the larger, it's one of the 3 largest of the cemeteries and most nicely maintained. And then Cooley, which is very tiny. It is a postage stamp. You zoom by it on the Cooley Road. It is also on the east side of the road. Has about a half a dozen headstones that you can still see. I don't know if there's even one that is unbroken.
Yeah. I live, just as an aside real quick, I live on Cooley Road, so I love that little cemetery, but you're right. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I'm really glad to hear that because we need somebody who's more interested in Cooley because I foresee that you all may want to do research into Cooley.
Yeah.
Tilton, which is over on the New Michigan, and it's right on top of the Farmington, Canandaigua town line. And then Academy, which you are probably most of you are familiar with the Academy Cemetery. It is on Seneca Point Road. It is still taking burials. There are somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe a half a dozen plots that have been sold, and nobody has claimed them yet. So we actually had an interment
So we
there.
don't sell lots there anymore, but there are some that are sold previously that have not been filled
Thank you for the record. So there was actually an interment last summer of a Vietnam veteran. So it is an active and important cemetery. It holds many veterans. All of these, would you go to the next? Oh, wait a minute. I gotta go to the bottom. So Wolverton is on the property of John Casey, who is the chairman of the Ordinance Committee, the Town of Canandaigua Ordinance Committee. And John does a nice job of maintaining that, and he has allowed groups to come on his property, i.e. the United States Navy Seabees have been there, and Boy Scouts to do maintenance. And then Pine Bank is the 9th cemetery in the town of Canandaigua. It is the largest. You could probably put all of the other cemeteries together and they wouldn't be as large as Pine Bank. Pine Bank obviously still receiving burials. There is a fair, I guess it's a rather large amount of acreage. I couldn't give you the actual number. But I think it's less than half of the available property at Pine Bank has been
It's
used.
on both sides of the road.
Yes, exactly. It's split on the far side. of the road. It hasn't, I believe.
Yeah, nothing.
Started,
Right.
yeah.
So
So that's
Pine
very
Bank
active.
is important in the future. There are those of us who believe this committee will end up having something to do with Pine Bank at some point in the future. And I'm not referring to your own burials. So I do believe that you just need to kind of avail yourself, if you've not been to Pine Bank, maybe give it a drive-by, walk through it if you can.
And
All
I
right.
think the board at Pine Bank, the Cemetery Association, would be a great resource for the
Yeah.
committee as well. They're all very interested and very active people who continue to maintain over there. They could be a great resource for us.
I'm gonna try to keep it under an hour. I'm trying hard, Kate. You gotta,
I know, you're doing a great job.
don't say anything, Terry. So I will say that, so Pine Bank has a very large number of historic burials going back way into the 19th century. It is suffering from the same thing that many other cemetery associations throughout the state are. I have some familiarity with that professionally in the past. They are aging out and they can't find volunteers to serve. And even those that are well endowed are a lot of times at risk of folding simply because they don't have any interest from the community. So this is sort of us leaning forward. I did speak to you about it, Doug, and I think I probably mentioned it to you and David, Judy. So just have that on your radar. As I mentioned, all the cemeteries in Canada were unique in size and number of burials, the age of the burials, and a host of other factors. Some of those factors are, some cemeteries have some very unique stones. Some of those stones are signed by the people who made them. Remington Root is a lovely cemetery. However, it's lost a very large number of its stones. When I say lost, some of those stones are probably there just under the sod. It's up to this committee what they want to do about that. So there's just this, you cannot compare one cemetery to another. We cannot compare the importance of one cemetery to another. This town previously has put most of its emphasis on Academy and Hun. Hun because it's most visible, oldest, and holds the largest number of early Canandaigua settlers. However, Remington Root, aka Knott, also does and has a large number of early veterans of the Revolution and the War of 1812. However, it's not as visible, so it kind of falls off everybody's radar. Again, that's something that this committee will have to make their own determinations about how you prioritize these cemeteries. You can see in this image two different issues that are facing some of our cemeteries. The one on the right is up at Academy Cemetery. The one on the left is Hun Cemetery. The one on the left is a great example of what's happening to our earliest headstones, which are the oldest extant form of artwork in Canandaigua. There is no other public art form that is as old. It's made from local stone called bluestone, and some of them delaminate like a sheet of plywood left out in the rain. So you have all of that to consider in the future. You'll ask the questions and determine, is it more important to get rid of Tree of Heaven? Our budget will allow us to cut down, 6 trees and we can preserve stones in this cemetery, but not this cemetery this year. So those are kinds of things you'll confront. And you'll make recommendations on those to the town board. A little piece of good news that you'll encounter is that as you embrace the landscaping concerns, is that the town just acquired a bucket truck. This is a really, really, really awesome acquisition. is going to allow us to do so many things that we had to beg, borrow, and steal before. Jim is, understandably excited about that.
It
So,
was Christmas in May. for
Yeah.
fun.
Yes,
It really was.
That was quite-
and we all wanted to jump up and cheer, didn't we? I mean, there was like decorum, but everybody wanted to jump up and cheer. And he not only acquired a good bucket truck, he acquired a good bucket truck at a bargain, given our economy and the situation we find ourselves in. All of our burial grounds contain some veterans. That list is somewhat of a moving target because veteran records of early veterans are not always complete. And there's a host of reasons for that that I won't go into here. However, Academy, Hun, and Remington Root, AKA not, probably hold the balance of the veterans in the cemeteries you're concerned with. Pine Bank also obviously has a very large number. A lot of our World War veterans of both wars are in Pine Bank, large number of Civil War. I just did the flags at Academy with my beautiful wife last Sunday, and took us about an hour and a half. And I should be able to tell you exactly how many flags we stuck in, but I can't. 24 would be a safe guess. The work that Donna and Richard West are doing to organize that cemetery will make that job much easier, and you will all have an accurate number of what the veterans that we know of. The stone you see there is, I consider that to be possibly one of the most important monuments in Canandaigua. That is dedicated to 8 young men who served in the Civil War. There is a tremendous story about 4 of those young men, actually 5, and that they all served in the same regiment. Well, all but one, they all died. They were all related. They all came from Academy. They all went to the little tiny schoolhouse in Academy, which is where Bob Narcong lives, on the corner of Seneca Point and County Road 16. So a very significant piece of history there. The 2022 budget, you guys are funded. And you can see where the balance is currently at, $16,100. There was a lot of forethought on Kate and Doug Finch's part, our town manager, in suggesting funding for this back at the beginning of the calendar year when we sat down and did our budgeting. This does not in any way impact my budget as town historian or anybody else's. This is funds that are available to all of you.
Solely for cemeteries.
Yeah. So other resources that are available to this committee, the Parks Department and their Parks and Rec and the staff. They will actually be going up and cleaning that south hedgerow at Hun. I don't know if we'll get into abating invasive species at the same time. We're definitely going to clear it out. I'm going to take just a second to tell you the reason that is important. The fence line that was there is barely there now. We need to resurvey or identify the surveying pins.
Which cemetery?
Hun.
And this is
with that-
particularly the border with the field behind it.
And with that, Karen, all of them need to have their boundaries and borders re-identified. And I'm sure the process won't be equal. In that hedgerow, I found in excess of 12.5 footstones. For those of you who don't know, a footstone is kind of self-defines. You had 2 stones, a headstone and a footstone. All cemeteries in the 19th century, Doug, stop me if this has changed. 19th century and early 20th century cemeteries were always oriented, so Christian cemeteries, so that those that were interred would be facing west, because on the final day of the rapture, the sun would rise in the west and the dead would rise up facing that rising sun. That was the methodology in all of our cemeteries. I don't know if it remains true or by tradition remains true.
It's more of a religious sect that gears towards that.
Right.
I mean, ours is open in 1884.
And it doesn't.
No,
Okay.
they're teardrop sections. They face every direction. There's circles.
Okay.
So, and we're non-denominational, so
There was more of a Baptist Methodist thing.
probably, I'm not even sure, maybe if the Catholic practiced that or not.
Yeah, I don't know if they did either. That's a good
But
question.
that's,
'Cause I don't know.
that's kind of an old thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go down a whole different rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I mean, Catholics used to go to Calvary just no matter what. And
Okay.
we do more Catholic burials than they do
Right.
now, so times have changed.
Yeah, right. And I would imagine we used to have very segregated as far as Jewish. We used to have segregated by race. That's actually something I hope this cemetery committee gets to encounter and unravel someday. We don't know what happened to the African-American members of this community. They are not buried in these 8 cemeteries as far as we know, unless they are buried unmarked. My guess is African burial grounds in almost all towns and cities in the 19th century were somewhere near Potter's Field if they were not in a African Episcopalian churchyard. And the African Episcopalian Church, I'm not even sure of its prevalence north of the Mason-Dixon line. So up here in the north, we don't know often what happened. And we did have a number of somewhat high profile African-American members of this community in the 19th century. So hopefully someday you guys will figure out where did they go. Preston Pierce, the county historian. Don't worry about whether Preston knows because you can't point to their graves either. So that should bring you guys, kind of give you a brief 30,000-foot view of where we're at. And the next bit of business we have is appointing the committee members. And before we do that, Kate, I would just like to ask a couple. What's your driving interest with this? Is it the history or is it the environmental landscape?
Well, being director of parks, I spent many hours at all the cemeteries. Back, my staff used to maintain them. I don't know how many times I mowed them and weed eated them. I'm also, of course, associated with Ray. I became interested in the history, so.
Okay.
Maintenance and
history.
history.
Okay. Doug, I roped you. I know. So, Judy, you are most drawn by the history,
History and maintenance. kind of
Okay.
Civic duties.
and David said, obviously,
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Karen has been asked because we try to have a town board member on every one of our committees. And Karen, just so you know, is filling in for a year for a seat that was vacated back in the fall. That seat will be up for auction. I didn't mean that, just for the record.
Election.
Was recorded.
This fall. Yeah, I know. So Karen's seat will be, there'll be at least 2 people we know of running this fall. However, Karen also has a history of working for the county. So she knows where a lot of bodies are buried and how resources are accessed. A great resource. So all of you, this is the amazing thing, everybody here has a tremendous background and or interest to bring.
Doug, what's your official affiliation with,
I'm the superintendent of Woodlawn.
for Woodlands?
Yeah.
Just in case.
And thank you for, because I know you were like up to here,
And I do love some.
and we'll get you out of here quick.
Yeah, it's okay. Sorry being late. We have about 700 flower pots being delivered right now.
Awesome.
And we spray them with deer spray, and my, of course, sprayer didn't work. And I don't know if you guys have ever smelled that stuff,
Yeah.
but it was running down my arm. I'm trying to scrub to get it.
We didn't smell you coming in.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I gotta
thanks
go
for
into
that.
surgery or something. Yeah, I apologize for being late. Yeah, it's our busiest
Not a problem at
time
all.
right now. So.
Mm.
You still have one on the sittings.
I have them both.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah, but blessed.
It's a crew and a half.
Yeah, they're good workers, so
Yeah, they're
it's
good.
it's tough.
So Mary, and I'm sorry, Mary, I'm not trying to forget you. I'm not used to this, the Zoomy thing, right?
That's fine. I don't feel forgotten.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna install 5 committee members today. And we are asking, I wish we had, but we didn't create alternates. So what Kate and I have discussed this. People who are not on a voting member of the committee, we are asking them to please remain completely locked in to every meeting, contribute as though you are a voting member. All right, because we need to have a system to replace people who go off the committee. So this committee is not just comprised of voting members. Obviously, I'm a non-voting member. I'm going to be ex officio. I'm actually going to try not to be here after possibly the next meeting. And that does kind of bring me to why you have a cemetery committee, because I felt that this was an imperative for our town, and things have been tried in the past that did not really succeed in getting the community involved. It fell to officialdom. It fell to employees. And employees can only do, even when they're the directors, what they're funded to do and what our policy says to do. So you all are going to be the first time that the town has tried to create policy and kind of lean forward and preserve not just the integrity of the graves, but the history of the graves, the history, the value of the art value of the stones and all of that. Just a big thing. And to lean forward into the possible pine bank. So that is why I felt that this was a really important crew to have. I don't think that the historian should be leading that charge. There's a lot of things that need to be thought about that don't have direct bearing on the historian. So that's why I'm going to step back as we go forward.
So that
I'll be
being
there as a
said,
resource.
We'd also be looking for a chairperson.
What's that?
So that being said, we are also looking for one of the 5 members to
Yes.
be as a chairperson.
Do they still have, hire someone to fix the stones? I know for a number of years when I was there, I mean, he wasn't given much money, but.
Same guy,
Okay,
Peter Ellison.
Peter,
Yeah.
he's a good guy.
So let's do the installation to the degree that we can,
Okay,
and then I will brief on Peter.
sounds good.
And there are a number of people who, like I said, who are hoping to be here or that you're going to meet. I suggest you meet in future meetings, including Peter. By the way, Sarah Linda Hooker sent her apology that she wasn't able to be here. She's the chair of the history team. The history team is not on the same governmental par as the committee, but it is a resource of this committee. And so she has an interest. Okay, Kate.
So we have 5 positions, and as the local law dictates, we would have 1 expiring each year. So the first seat would start currently, well, what we'll do is we'll officially have the town board appoint each member of the committee at their next town board meeting. But as a group, we'll make the recommendation. And the first term would expire 12/31/22, and then each year successional until 12/31/26. Now, please don't feel like you're locked in at all at any point in time. You're certainly welcome to make a change if something
Right.
doesn't work and something changes in your life.
So if they have a
You are
5-year
in no way
term
locked
and at
in.
year 3, they can't do it,
Exactly.
we're not gonna put them in a
No,
headlock.
not at all, not at all. Right, at any
And
point
that's
in
why we
time-
want those unofficial alternates.
That's exactly why. And as we do events and as we have cleanup days, we are gonna want as many hands as possible. So absolutely, we want to try to gather a bit like a planet of orb around us.
So does anybody want to raise their hand to be the chairperson? All right, so I would like to, may I make a suggestion? I would suggest that we put Karen in the headlock and ask her, you got a built-in escape route. though."
I second it.
Well, to mention that I'm here as a town board member. 1-year term, I assume,
I think it would be most appropriate for you to
basically
take
my
the first
term
seat.
ends.
Correct.
but it doesn't state
It doesn't,
town board members are,
No, not
it
required.
doesn't require. or
There's no
not require.
requirement.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, that,
It's just I mean,
So you could stay if you want to stay longer.
yeah, that's what I'm leading up to.
let me say this out loud and for the record. So while it is not a requirement, it is encouraged, and it is encouraged so that the public understands that there is oversight, and that oversight is by somebody that they elected. All right. In your particular case, yes, you're filling in for a year, but you're still a public official. And I do think that, especially with a new committee, that's very important, because we need to be,
So
You
are
know,
you gonna
dot
require
nice.
a town board member starting January?
I don't think we have to require it. Again, I think we encourage it, but if Terry's or John Casey says, yeah, no, you're not getting me to do it.
Well, John is the chairman of the ordinance committee now.
Yeah.
Well, John is going to run for
Yes.
Right.
the seat that Karen is occupying.
And
right
Terry
now,
has an
but-
interest in cemeteries also,
Absolutely.
because he's a veteran. Like me, Terry kind of, we've talked about it a couple of times.
Yeah,
We value those, we value all the plots. However, there's,
Well, I mean, I could chair, but I can't guarantee you can fire me in December.
that's fine with us.
Um,
If you wanted to continue, that would certainly be fine.
yeah,
we regularly reappoint people to.
Absolutely.
I know you do, that's what I
you
worry
know, So I
about.
mean, it's not a 5-year
Well,
term.
it's
It
your
doesn't
decision.
mean
We
at the
never
end of
will
5
reappoint
years will go
someone.
away.
Right,
I mean, you could be reappointed to the committee if you desire to be
right.
involved. So I mean, that's.
Absolutely.
But as far as establishing our immediate needs and our targets and what we want to focus on,
Creating agendas. Yeah.
I need guidance. I can't do that alone.
Of course not.
You'll have the other four. And which is why I asked Doug to be a part of this, and Jim Johnson, who's not here. You all probably know Jim from his work at Johnson Kennedy Funeral Home.
How often do you expect it should meet the committee?
So
That's the second half of our discussion.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just say more frequently in the beginning, probably, then you'll need to be down the road.
I'm not doing a lot of tours in December and February.
Correct. I get that. I'm not either.
And we're certainly not repairing anything.
I would think that by the time we get to the holiday season, you could certainly be meeting less frequently than monthly, if, you as a group. But again, see, I'm inserting my thinking, and I don't want to do that. My guess would be that you as a committee will start to accomplish the things you want to accomplish, and the need to meet will be, you'll determine that.
Not to throw in my 2 cents, but I'm going to, and of the people that are going to be on this committee, there's one guy that's probably more familiar with our cemeteries than anybody else. And he would be knowing.
I'm
town
already
operation,
chairman of the tree committee.
That, and that's where I was going
operation,
earlier with my
cemeteries,
question.
so involved with it over the years that.
I think we've got a lot of resources, or you're right. And so I don't really want, I've gotten you to this point, and I would like to flee the room right now, because I don't want my opinions overriding. My intent was to get you here.
Absolutely.
I'm more than willing to, if you pick a chairman, I'm more than willing to give him a hand.
All right.
All right. So
Well-
we'll go ahead with Karen in the 12/31/22 position. I think maybe if you're willing, Doug, it might be appropriate to stagger between residents and non-residents, since we do have that flexibility of adding people who have specific knowledge. Would you be willing to take the 12/31/23 term?
Sure.
Thank you. So then in that case, I'd look back to a town resident. If anyone else would like to move on to, that would be the 2024 term. And again, no one is locked in, but we would just be looking to fill the positions with the board next month. So I don't know. I know Mary just showed up for information purposes. I'm not sure if you're interested in serving or not. Mary, would you be interested in serving on the committee? Oh, you're muted. You're just muted, darling. I can't hear you here.
Sorry about that.
There we
Yeah, as if I'm a Zoom newbie here, right? Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to. I came on just because this is an area of personal interest and passion of mine. But if I can contribute in a more meaningful way than beyond volunteering on the work days in the cemetery, happy to do that.
That's gonna be a huge thing, Mary, right there.
Yeah, and if you want me, in my day job, I'm a director of international communications for U of R. I can also help from a, marketing and comms perspective, and anything you might want in terms of, like you were mentioning in the earlier outreach via email, helping people get engaged and excited about participating even at a volunteer level. So however you can use me, that would be, I'm more than happy to step up.
Well, I think she just stuck her head in the trap with being the volunteer in charge of communications and
Yeah, happy to.
now I say that with a joke, but Mary, truly, that would be massive to the town. Thank you.
Yes, would love to help. Thank you.
You got her as our communications volunteer. All right. And
So
Yorks, do either of you actually have to say it yourself?
Oh, okay, I see. I just need a little clarity here. Yes, we'd love to volunteer in whatever capacity. We like to clean up. We like to,
Which
just
position
work
have you got there,
outside,
Kate?
So Judy, perhaps 12/31/24 term, the term that would take you to 24.
Take me there.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Does that work
sure.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We could make Mr. Johnson ex officio if you want, Kate.
I'm thinking if we continue to stagger, has he confirmed his interest in serving as an
He's
official
confirmed
member?
his interest in being a part of this
Okay,
and in serving, but I think Jim would do whatever this committee requested.
okay. Well, let's go ahead and we'll put him in 25 to continue our
Okay.
stagger. And then we just look for one last person to fill the 26 seat, the last, the full 5-year term.
Dave?
Okay.
Wait a minute,
All
you're
right.
supposed to go.
You are also on the record
You're out
as
first.
the tree guy. Because I know Edith, and you and Eric and Sarah Linda and I were supposed to go.
Right,
So,
and we missed you.
yeah, I know. We'll do it again. But the nice thing is maybe we grab some of the committee to go with us. So committee. Just so to quick clue them in on this conversation. And I think it helps understand some of the other things. We do have a tree committee here in town that is working on invasives and on preserving our historic trees. Of which we have many. We have issues in all of the cemeteries with either damage, invasives and with preservation. So the tree committee, they lean in with anything related to arbor issues. Okay, am I saying that right?
Sure.
So that is a big piece of this committee's work. And Terry will tell you I harped on like forever about it back before there was a committee. Because you all are going to see that your cemeteries have multiple issues with dead trees, dying trees, invasive trees, trees that need to be replaced. So you'll make decisions and recommendations based on what the tree committee tells you. And both the tree committee and the cemetery committee will recommend to you guys?
So do they just go to the cemeteries or do the cemetery committee say, hey, could you check out?
Could be both.
It
Could
go
actually be both,
ways.
Karen.
We have a meeting scheduled for June 20th at 5:30. And we are going to be visiting. I have to think what we did the last time. Sand Hill,
Yeah.
Cooley, Tilton,
Hun and,
Hunt, and the Peanut Line, which is in a cemetery. But that's on our
Okay.
schedule for the 20th. And we're meeting
Okay.
down at the parking lot by the building at Richard Outhouse Park.
Okay.
So at
so,
our last meeting, we covered the other ones.
so. There, if you can be free that day, you will learn a lot. Just from the tree team, because they've got. They've been dealing with this for some time. They're the ones that are most excited about the bucket truck.
That's actually a holiday.
Mm.
It's-
Right, we knew that because originally the board was supposed to meet on
Oh,
that
it's
day.
June.
We usually meet the second Monday of the month, so we flip-flop with the board.
It's not 18th.
Okay.
The committee members said they were fine with.
Yeah.
With that date, so I.
Okay.
So,
June
this
20th
is
at
actually working out.
5:30.
What's the date again?
June
That's okay.
20th,
June 20th.
5:30.
They're going to review the trees in some of the different cemeteries and hopefully put something in writing, I think, right?
Yeah,
To
we
kind
always have
Perfect.
minutes from each one,
Perfect,
and then
What's
we give the list to Lindsay.
that's right.
She meets with the park staff and.
Okay.
They go
Says, hey,
over it,
these are
yeah.
this is what's going on in the cemeteries as far as trees.
We've got to figure out that process too, how that goes from them to this committee to the board and
Exactly.
all of that.
Exactly.
I offer, again, no opinion on that. Just that if we need to do it, we need to codify how we take recommendations from other committees and how it funnels from this committee to the town board.
Well, I assume this would go on the committee reports at regular board meetings, just like all the others. That's an addition.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether Parks, I mean, if they make I don't want to go there, but if they make the recommendation, does Parks make it during the meeting or does Cemetery Committee make it to the town board during the meeting? Just ownership of the
A lot
reporting.
of the time we do things
Yeah.
jointly as
But
well. so-
That's something you can worry about, Karen?
Shared services. Well, and then the next piece that we'd like to discuss would be the meeting time. So Leaf and I have kind of discussed it being late morning, this was just a first throw out there type opportunity. But now that we have some members who are going to serve actively, we want to survey and see just what would be the most convenient times of the day. So perhaps just to get started, we suggest monthly meetings. A lot of what our committees do will say, like Dennis was saying, the second Monday of the month at a certain time, or the third Wednesday, the first Wednesday. So there are certain days of the week that maybe are good and certain times of day that might be best for people. I did take a quick look at our town hall calendar just to kind of giving us an idea of where we have availability, and Wednesdays are very open. So that is why we went with a Wednesday, but if that is certainly an issue, I think Wednesdays work well here as far as logistics.
Look at me, ex officio, I could be kind of,
I'm thinking I don't
I
see
can
a
speak for
calendar.
Jim Johnson. Doug, if you work with him all the time too, so if you have any insight. He said evenings were better for him. I think we all understand why. I also know that is a day of the week, Mondays are probably better for him. Just because
Johnson?
because there's fewer funerals are held on a Monday. But I don't know that doesn't become a planning day and a whole lot of other things for him. And you guys work together frequently.
Yeah, I mean, Mondays, a lot of folks. He's probably right, but pertaining to my cemetery, a lot of people don't like to pay the overtime on a Saturday funeral, so they hold it
Okay.
till Monday.
Yeah.
But that's just ours.
Right.
That doesn't pertain to Jim, so unless he's coming to us. So he's probably right most.
Well, and I know right now it's very difficult for him to probably even offer anything because
Oh,
as
certainly
I
with a
mentioned,
staff
he's short
member,
a
yeah.
funeral director who
Yeah.
walked out. on
Yeah,
it.
non-voting member on our board. And Jim hasn't been there in years, but we only
Okay.
meet 3 times a year.
Right.
And whether, but obviously we see him constantly, so he knows our business.
Right, he makes up for it with all the
Yeah,
other stuff, yeah.
He doesn't need to sit in a chair and listen.
Right.
When we talk about it all the time.
Okay.
So I can't speak for him, what would work better.
So let's go off of everybody that's here then.
Okay, that sounds good. Yorks, do you guys have flexibility certain times of day?
I think this is a good time. I do have a conflict. I usually have to be somewhere by 11,
Okay.
but on Wednesdays.
I prefer, for me during the day that we meet, like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, or
Okay.
after 5 o'clock. I paint houses and do things, but by now it's kind of like
You don't know what retirement is, do you?
kill of the day,
Yeah.
Okay.
I like 9 o'clock in the morning.
I like 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock's better for me.
Doug, is
work
that,
For you, Doug?
Yeah, it should be all right. And if we prep for a funeral, it's usually by 7:30 in the morning. So I'm usually ready by 9.
okay, and I know Ray and I would both say we'll be here when the committee needs us, and we're
Do
the
we
least
have a
important.
Monday versus a Wednesday preference?
depends which Monday. Because I already have a meeting on Monday and stuff,
Which
And
Mondays do you
that's
meet
the-
on?
the second.
Second Mondays, okay.
Does anybody have a week of the month that is already committed to something else?
A week of the month.
You know what I mean,
the
like first Monday as opposed
I
to,
know, but it
you know where I'm going,
changes.
Karen.
You know
I'm
it
not
changes
sure.
depending on
Don't expect me to
what
make
falls.
sense, okay?
I'm on the events committee too. I think they meet either the
I
second or
think they're-
third Friday of each
Yeah,
month. I
think they're
forgot which.
Fridays. Yeah.
Wednesdays.
So anyway.
Did we-
Wednesdays or Mondays, and which of and why?
Well, Wednesdays aren't really good for me.
All right, how about we go with first Monday? Does anybody have an objection to first Monday?
It's actually better for us.
in my day.
I know that is not claimed. The historian doesn't have anything claiming that,
You,
and it's also not on top of a town board meeting.
No, the 3rd Monday.
Would one of the committee members like to make our first motion to establish the committee schedule to meet monthly on the first Monday at 9 a.m.?
What time on the first Monday? 9?
9 a.m.
Monday is the ordinance committee. Well,
Is it?
generally, but
it's-
we've been
at 9?
at 9.
We'll grab whatever room you guys are using.
Yeah, well, there's this.
Well, there
room.
could potentially be. a
Courtroom.
little- a
Yeah.
little delay, yeah. Okay, well, we can go with it. And then every year in January, when the town board holds their organizational meeting, they request that all the committees submit reappointments and meeting times. So if we find that for the first couple of months, it isn't working out well, we can always make an adjustment. There's nothing that locks us in.
So did you get your move?
Did
Did
we get a
somebody
motion?
move for the?
Someone make a motion?
If you didn't, I'd move that we have our meetings on the first Monday at 9 a.m.
Monday of each month.
Second.
Oh,
Subject to change.
all those in favor? Carry.
Perfect. Oh, I'm so excited for you guys. That's awesome. Thank you all so much.
So our next meeting is a week
Right,
away or
you're
something,
literally
right?
right
Oh,
on
yeah.
top of it.
Yeah.
The
We
calendar.
didn't think of that when we made that. did we?
Well, we
So-
can certainly have that conversation. So the first Monday would be June 6th. That is just about a week and a half away. Or we could choose to have our first on July 4th. So there we go.
Yeah.
I think you need to be in June.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, kick it off.
And then hopefully a lot of you will join the tree team on the 20th.
You know I'm gonna be there.
Is there a capacity to that?
I'm gonna let,
Is there a capacity to that?
do you want to
So-
introduce all this, share all this with Edith
Sure.
and Sarah Linda
And Dan, yeah.
and Eric?
We have
Get Eric, too.
two real knowledgeable people on this. The tree team isn't very big. We have two really knowledgeable people on the team. I don't know that much. I just.
Mhm. Dan Marion? Dan Marion,
Dan,
Senior engineer.
Hmm.
tree doctor.
And
Not-
Doug, this is, and I know your tree, how much you value the trees at Woodlawn. If you ever get a chance in the next few days, weeks, to stop over to Hun, take a look at the oak trees there.
Sure.
They are like probably almost as old as the one in front of the VA. They gotta be getting there, right?
Well, that's actually my degree is environmental conservation.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay.
I spent working for the Soil Conservation Service in Horsetts 6 years as a forester.
Hmm.
And then I moved up here and I was a water resource specialist up here.
Where you weren't a CCFL student.
I was back in the 80s.
So do you have that?
So was I, but
Yeah.
not environmental conservation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Dr. Marion used to do our trees at Woodlawn.
Oh.
Very knowledgeable person. We had a program with him about treating them. He did it for years, but different, not to get off on a different tangent, but different trees, different species reacted differently to his practices. And then at the end, trees die.
Oh, yeah.
You can do what you can do for them, but
Mhm.
you're not saving the ash trees now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, I
And,
digress.
if, that's gonna be something you guys are gonna really enjoy, because I mean, it's a big problem, are the invasives. And the valuable trees that we have, and like, when you get over to Sand Hill, you're gonna see that they planted a lot of locusts there way back in the day. We all know locusts live for like ever,
Mhm.
and now we have a number of large, mostly dead locusts, I think, aren't they? That need to come down. And so you're gonna confront like issues of identifying what needs to come down, where are the boundaries, whose responsibility is it? This isn't gonna just be, talking to Peter Ellison and fixing headstones and mowing contracts. You're gonna have some very weighty kinds of, because they are town properties and there is liability involved. Just a host of things. But you have great resources though. That's the other thing, great resources to deal with all that. So thank you, everybody, for showing interest and for coming and lending your specific expertise. Thank you very much, Mary, for, stepping up to the plate. I mean, I know you want to get your hands dirty, but I'm sure the committee's gonna, be needing your skills in the marketing and PR department.
Happy to help and get my hands dirty, both.
Mary, if you could send a quick email to either Leaf or myself, both of our email addresses can be found on the townofcanandaigua.org website.
Okay.
I'm just going to collect some quick contact information from everyone present. And if you could please just shoot us over what the best way to contact you, email, cell phone, whatever you would prefer for that. So we
And Kate,
Thanks.
to update
Thank
all of
you.
you, if there are weather issues, any kind of, anything that's gonna interrupt your schedule, or if we end up in a different room, in a different space, or if we're meeting at a, out in the town somewhere, at a cemetery or something, I'll bring the beer.
I just want to double check. Are we meeting June 6th? Next week. Or
Week
2
and a
weeks,
half.
right? Yeah.
We can have.
right.
I think it's important sometime for everyone to visit the cemeteries, and just have
Oh,
a nice
yeah.
walk
I think
around,
that's a
and
perfect agenda item for
I
the
mean,
next
there are-
meeting.
I do too.
they're
Okay.
neat places and they're,
Yes.
Thanks, because
Okay.
that's on the top of my
So
list.
we should meet on the 6th. And I think it's good to meet a week before the board meeting anyways,
Absolutely.
every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
July 4th is a holiday. Do we meet on the 5th, a Tuesday?
is everybody in town July 5th? And if you're all good with that, right?
Yep.
Karen, I'm gonna suggest this, but it's up to you and your committee. Peter Ellison, he's a preservationist who's been doing all the repair on our cemetery headstones. The work that he's commissioned for this year is based on my assessment. Again, that is Leaf's assessment. Okay. You all may have other things you look at and, and you've got great knowledgeable people here who may say, you know what, no, I really feel like we need to lean into this instead of that. You need to meet Peter Ellison.
Yeah, so we could invite him on the 6th, or we could
I
invite
can-
him to a time that we scheduled to actually physically be at the cemeteries. That might be, he can tour you through some of the different issues that he addresses and show you different phases of repairs. So I think it'd be more beneficial for us to invite him to come when we actually are at the cemeteries, but he's amazing. His work is wonderful. What he does.
And that's a thing that you'll all be doing as long as you're on the committee. Because we don't repair a stone and then it stays that way forever. We repair a stone and it lasts for a few years and then it needs it again. And if we don't do it, our stones fall apart. If you're interested, if you haven't, I mean, in my office, on my desk, I can show you what happens. And we have some stones that are in a small exhibit I put together last fall, a couple of foot stones. So I can kind of familiarize you, but
Thank you.
Well, should we adjourn? Are we done?
I think so.
What's the-
This
Are
is
we
our
meeting
last.
at the cemetery? Which cemetery? On
sixth.
June 6th.
Do you want to meet here and then
Yeah.
we'll schedule time,
Yeah.
a time to tour?
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
think maybe if we cut the town and do one day where we tour the north 3 and then another day we do the 4 south end, just because driving around the town can take
It's, yeah,
almost a
it's a
whole
big
entire day
distance.
to
Mhm.
do
Oh,
that,
yeah.
so.
Or if they went, if they'll join the
And the
tree
tree
team on
team you'll
June-
get to see,
June
exactly,
20th, we're gonna knock off 3 or 4 cemeteries that night.
right. You'll get to see
by the way, if
that
you
as
drive
well.
by in the next 24 hours and you see that they need mowing, be aware that I am on that. I don't know if our mowing service is waiting until we get close to the holiday. I'm not thrilled with the way they look right at the moment. They're getting very shaggy.
Okay.
I want to jump on that a little bit too, because
Okay.
I'm sensitive about how things are moving. We went to the academy last week, the tree team did. And I was always a stickler on blowing off the dead grass off the stones. There's a lot of dead grass left. on
Yep, I just did it myself too. Yep.
So I try to keep my nose out of that.
No, don't keep your nose out of it.
You open the doors.
Right.
No, I had to reset some stones because clearly they had been bumped by probably the tire, because if they get hit by the chute or by any,
It's great.
yeah, there's a scrape or a chip. So it was probably just a tire, but I had a lot of small stones that were out of kilter.
Mm.
And
So
That's
I
a new company this year as
got to
well,
that.
so we'll definitely
Yep.
want to establish new expectations.
Didn't we go to a new company this year because we had this problem
Yes.
last year?
Yeah.
Yes, and I don't,
These guys said they would not.
We
Yeah.
had this
That's right.
problem times 10 last year, yeah, so hopefully.
I got a story
we can
for you
get
on
this
the new
addressed.
guys.
All right, guys, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
Kate, I'm sorry, real quick, before we leave, Kate, can I get your last name so I can find you easier on the website? I missed it.
Go to the town managers page. My last name is hyphenated Silverstrom-Jensen.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome, thank you
So
again.
how's the tree?
Have a great day.
Very good.
You too.
Yeah, you should wield in